You have to sit down.
How did you know I was a
Minty.
lender? Okay, what we're gonna do today is a little time traveling. One of the major issues for our community for 200 years, since 1818, when Hipolito Bouchard raided the mission, was he a pirate? Was he a privateer? Or was he a patriot? Or a combination thereof? So what we're going to do finally, after 200 years, he's going to be judged by a jury of his peers. I hope some of them are honest folks.
Those honest folks.
And I'll be portraying a fellow named Richard Henry Dana Jr. And the reason that is important is I was here in 1833. I wrote a book, maybe you've heard of it, called 2 Years Before the Mast.
A pirate that reads?
After I left, I completed law school. I became the U.S. Attorney under Lincoln during the war. I defended the slaves during the fugitive slave trials. And I even acquitted Jefferson Davis of treason.
All right.
So my best efforts are going to be today to get Mr. Hipolito Bouchard, who is a true patriot, off the hook. All right, thank you.
Hear ye, hear ye. All rise, please. The Justice Court of San Juan Capistrano is now in session. Judge Richard Egan presiding.
Good afternoon, everybody. Please be seated. Okay, the first thing I'm going to ask is all the jurors, please raise your right hand. Promise to decide this case on the evidence you hear and see in this courtroom and the instructions that I give you. You so promise.
I so do.
Okay. All right.
Counsel, please rise. State your name clearly for this court and your occupation.
For the defense, Richard Henry Dana Jr., Attorney at Law, State of Massachusetts.
For the prosecution, Clara Foltz, first woman district attorney in the country from Los Angeles.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you some basic instructions so you know what this case is about, and the rules you'll have to follow in making your decision. I'll comment on these very briefly at the end of trial. Let me define some of the terms that you'll be hearing. A patriot. A patriot is a person who vigorously supports their country and is prepared to defend it against its enemies. A pirate is one who illegally attacks and robs ships at sea or close to the shores of the sea. A privateer is an armed ship owned and officered by a private individual while holding a government commission authorized for use in war to fight or harass enemy warships or merchant vessels or enemy facilities near the shore. While acting as a privateer is recognized under international law, piracy is not, whether or not a person is a patriot. If you find defendant was a patriot, if you find defendant was a pirate, you must find defendant guilty even if he was a patriot for Argentina. Defendant is not a pirate under the law if he was attacking enemy shore facilities with a known authority under a valid letter of marque, M-A-R-Q-E. A letter of marque is valid if it authorizes the conduct at issue and is viable, that is within the time limit set in the letter of marque for the exercise of the authority given to and being used by the defendant. Defendant is entitled to the benefit of the doubt. If you find that defendant was acting without the authorized authority given by the Argentine government, you must find that if you find that defendant was acting within the authority given by the Argentine government, you must find defendant not guilty of piracy. Reasonable doubt is based on a common sense assessment of the facts and is defined as follows. The fact that a criminal charge has been filed against the defendant is not evidence that the charge is true. You must not be biased against the defendant just because he has been arrested, charged with a crime, or brought to trial. A defendant in a criminal case is presumed to be innocent. This presumption requires that the people prove a defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that leaves you with an abiding conviction that the charge is true. An abiding conviction is a long-lasting conviction, something you're comfortable today, 6 months from now, a year from now. The evidence need not eliminate all possible doubt, because everything in life is open to some possible or imaginary doubt. In deciding whether the people have proved their case beyond a reasonable doubt, you must impartially compare and consider all the evidence that is received throughout the entire trial. Unless the evidence proves the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, he is entitled to an acquittal, and you must find him not guilty. With that, if you'll swear the
Yes, sir.
witnesses.
Will the witnesses please stand? Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth as best you remember it? Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay, there are going to be opening statements. Are there going to be opening statements, or are you ready to call your first witness?
No, Your Honor, I have an opening statement.
Please speak into the microphone so we can hear you. She looks familiar. I do not know this lady.
Boy, are you in trouble.
I want to be able to face the jury and answer. Can you hear me? Is this on? Yes. Good afternoon. I hope none of you were shanghaied in order to get here, although a couple of you look like maybe you were. This trial is very important. It has to do with the rule of law, the order of countries, and the conduct of ships on the high seas. Without rules, without order, without proper conduct, the world would be thrown into chaos. You are here to decide if Captain Hipolito Bouchard was a patriot, a pirate, or a privateer. You heard the judge's instructions, and he gave the definition of each one. The important one is the definition for a privateer, and I will repeat, is a person in command of a ship owner and equipped by one or more persons and are licensed by government to seize and plunder the ships of an enemy in war. A pirate is a robber of ships on the high seas. What I'm going to read to you now is the crux of the entire trial. This was the declaration that Captain Bouchard issued on the shores of San Juan Capistrano when he was attempting to raid our town. He said, "War being declared by King Fernando VII on those who do not wish to live under his domain, I, representing an independent nation, persecute and make war on all European Spain and also all on the dominions of the king. And this city, which governs as an enemy nation, shall contribute the following provisions: 20 sacks of potatoes, 10 sacks of corn, and 4 head of cattle. If this contribution be fulfilled, I shall retire without doing the slightest injury. But if under any pretext whatsoever you try to evade my reasonable and humane proposal, you will experience the rigors of war and you will see just what point your rule extends. And you shall reply to this in 1/2 hour. May God keep you in many years. On this 15th day of December, 1818. The important thing to remember is the date, because Captain Bouchard is flying the Argentinian flag. The Argentinian flag could have not been flying until Argentina was a legitimate country on its own. He claims to be a privateer, but he cannot seize lands the Argentina is not, and I repeat, not at war with. Although the coast of California was under Spanish rule at this time, 1818, the peace treaty with Spain and Argentina
You're talking
had
to the
been
mic,
signed.
please.
Pardon me?
Try talking more directly to the mic.
Bouchard knew that it had been signed in 1816 was the peace treaty. And Bouchard knew this because he was in Buenos Aires when the treaty was signed. He did not leave for his journey until the first anniversary of the peace treaty in 1817. So his claiming that Argentina was at war with Spain and he had the right to attack is absolutely untrue and makes him a pirate, not a privateer, and certainly not a hero. That will be what you will hear from the witnesses in this trial. Thank you.
Hang up! Oh.
That's over your statement?
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, if this trial is going to be about a sack of potatoes and some corn, it's going to be a very short trial. It is my honor today to defend our noble patriot, Don Hipolito Bouchard, from the salacious attacks by the prosecution. Mrs. Clara Foltz has chosen to accuse my client of the heinous capital crime of piracy. Nothing could be further from the truth. You will learn that this French-born Argentine patriot sacrificed his life in the closeness of his family to wrench the Americas free from the shackles of Spanish rule. Listen carefully to the crafted, sordid tales of the prosecution, and then compare them to the beautiful pearls of wisdom dribbling from the lips of our Savior, Don Hipolito Bouchard. Bring forward the prosecutor.
Ready for the first witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution calls California historian Hubert Bancroft. Stand, please.
Mr. Bancroft, if you'll stay, spell your name if you can, and speak into the microphone so you don't hear it.
Hubert, Hubert, Howe, Howe, Bancroft, Bancroft.
May begin.
Mr. Bancroft, as a historian,
Want to use the mic?
As a historian, please describe whether Spain and Argentina were at war in 1818.
Well, Madam Prosecutor, that is not a simple answer. It seems that Pope Alexander VI divided the Western Hemisphere between Spain and Portugal back in 1494. He was upset with the fact that Spain and Portugal were constantly quibbling over which territory belonged to whom. So taking out a map of the world, the Western Hemisphere, he simply sliced it in half, gave the West to Spain and gave the East to Portugal. Now, since that time, we move forward to one of the worst kings that ever inhabited a throne. And that was King Fernando VII of France, a terrible king. During his reign, he lost more territory for Spain than any other king has done before or since in Europe. Well, in July 9th of 1816, Argentina declared its independence after having developed a government called the United Provinces of Rio La Plata in 1810. Now, it declared its independence, but we have no record of it declaring war against Spain. Now, we know de facto that there were royalists inside Argentina who were fighting against the insurgents, and we know that this government, the United Provinces, hired 63 captains to go out and function as privateers. Now the problem, the letter of marque, which was the permission for Bouchard to go out and plunder ships and settlements, that marque was given for 16 months. It was over with. It had run out 1 month before he attacked San Juan Capistrano. So you could conclude that he was a pirate, but wait a minute. He had another letter of marque, which came from England, France, Ireland, and Scotland. And he still had months to go on that letter of marque, which entitled him to plunder and pillage, not as a pirate, but as a privateer. And so was he a pirate? From the standpoint of Argentina alone, yes. But from the standpoint of a letter of marque being legitimately given to him in his pursuit of plunder, he definitely was not a pirate. He was a privateer.
When, Mr. Bancroft, was that second marque issued?
That second marque was issued on June 27th, 1817 to November 27th, 1818. 16 months. That was the one for Argentina. But the one for England was from July 13th, 1818 to January 13, 1819.
Oh!
Yeah. So it was after the raid.
There seems to be some discrepancy with the date, because according to a very well-known Argentinian historian, and he wrote, and I quote, Bouchard sailed from Buenos Aires on July 9, 1817, with a letter of marque for 16 months, which expired in November, not December, November of 1818. So while he was en route from Hawaii to California is when that expired. The other one that he got from England that was actually issued in Boston, that one he could not have received, except because he was on the high seas at the time that that one would have reached Argentina. He could not have possibly had it in his possession, correct?
I'm not certain
We
of that.
did not
Madam
have
Prosecutor.
passenger pigeons to be delivering mail at that time, right?
This is true.
Okay, thank you very much. And there again, Spain and Argentina were no longer at war in 1818, correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much, I appreciate your talking to us today.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you for providing with us a sample of your vast knowledge of history. You testified that Argentina. Where are you going? He's got it right there. He's not going to get away with that one. Thank you for providing a sample in case you didn't hear it. You testified that Argentina declared their independence on July 9th, 1816,
Correct.
but was not at war in 1818.
That's correct.
But wasn't it until April 15th, 1818, during the decisive battle led by General Jose Martin, when the Royalists were finally defeated at the Battle of Mapu?
That is correct.
And hasn't this campaign been widely considered to be the conclusion of the Argentine War of Independence?
Yes, it has.
And is it also correct that Argentina did not receive their independence from Spain until 1824, 6 years later?
That is correct, yes.
And wasn't it until 1863 when the Treaty of Peace and Amity finally brought the end of hostilities between Spain and Argentina?
Correct, yes.
One last question, Mr. Bancroft. Prior to Captain Bouchard arriving in San Juan Capistrano, did he not tell his officers that their goal was to instigate a revolution among the provinces that would free the Americas from the grasp of Spain?
Most probably he did, yes. But his prime motive for pillaging any settlements along the
Mr.
coast.
Bancroft, I don't believe there's a second part of that question. Are those the words of a pirate or the emotional cry of a true patriot?
Sir, there are other reasons for him wanting to.
Thank you, I have no further questions.
I would like to redirect, Your Honor, and I would like to hear the rest of your statement, Mr. Bancroft.
Yes. The other two reasons why. Number one, he was low on supplies and needed to replenish his ship's stores. And the second, the only way his crew was ever going to get paid was through plunder, which would then be distributed among the crew and in effect became their wages for having sailed with the captain.
Oh, la, la.
Yeah. So when he pillaged, he wanted to replenish his stores and to replenish the funding for his crew. If he didn't do that, he risked the possibility of the crew jumping ship, mutiny. This was a serious problem. He had to keep his crew happy, and that's one of the main reasons he tried to raid San Juan Capistrano.
One final question on redirect. Through today, is not the Independence Day of Argentina celebrated on July 9th, 1816?
That's correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Recross for one simple point. I appreciate you bringing up the point that it is a basic human right.
Counsel?
Yes. Isn't it a basic human right to pursue food and shelter for both yourself and your men?
Yes.
And was that the goal of Hipolito Bouchard?
Yes.
Thank you.